Math!
Hey everybody, this is Mr. Regener and this is the Aftermath. Today we are focused on focus, and specifically this week we are looking at week 29 for day 2. So you can follow along with your week 29 day 2 activity as you watch this video and help yourself prepare for this week's focus quiz. Let's go ahead and get started. So number 1 says, Helene was finding the percent of a number. Her work is shown in the box below. What is 6% of 35? X equals 35 times 6/10. X equals 21. What should Helene do to correct the error that she made? So for this problem, I want to look at this and think, well, here's my original question. It says 6% of 35. So I want to think about this. I would really be taking 35 times 6%, and 6%, if I change that into a decimal, is going to be 0.06. So it looks like Helene made her error right here. She took 35 times 0.6 or 6/10, when 6% is actually 6/100. So looking at my options, both A and B say divide. And I know I do want to multiply, so I know both A and B are wrong. And then C and D, one says multiply 35 by 6/100. One says multiply 35 by 6. Well, I did the work up here and I know that it's got to be letter C. So my answer there, pretty easy, pretty clear. All right, so now let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 says, Shelley biked 69.5 miles in 5 hours. What is Shelley's average speed in miles per hour? And enter your answer using decimals. So we're looking for a decimal answer here. All right, so I know that she biked 69 and 5/10 miles in 5 hours. I'm going to write this out as a ratio. That's going to be miles to hours. That's 69 and 5/10 miles in 5 hours. Now I can create an equivalent ratio, which is really going to be a unit rate. And that's going to be a certain number of miles to 1 hour. Okay, so let me think about what I'm doing here. I'm really taking 5 divided by 5 to get to 1. That means whatever I do on the bottom, I do the top, because these are going to be equal. So I have 69 and 5/10 divided by 5. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I have the magic of math. So I'll take 69 and 5/10 divided by 5. 5 goes into 6 one time, that's going to be 5. I subtract and get 1 and bring down my 9. 5 goes into 19 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. I subtract and I get 4. I bring down my 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times, and that's 45, and that would be an even number. I'm running out of paper there. So I came up with 13 and 9/10, and that would be my answer, 13 and 9/10 miles. So it says, what's the average speed in miles per hour? The average speed is 13 and 9/10 miles per hour. Pretty easy stuff. Again, if you don't like the idea of ratios, what we're really doing is taking our miles divided by our hours, and that gives us our unit rate over here. Our label of miles per hour works well. All right, there we have number 2. Again, simple division on number 2. Let's move on now to number 3. Now number 3 says the student council is holding a car wash. Council members are charging $4 for cars and $6 for vans. The graph shows some possible combinations of cars and vans they could wash to reach their goal of $360. They washed 50 vans. How many cars did they need to wash to earn exactly $360? So this chart here, and it tells us the graph shows some possible combinations. This is going to be super handy because yes, we could set up an equation and take 4 times the number of cars and 6 times the number of vans, and it's all going to equal 360, and then plug in our numbers and solve from there. But we don't have to. We have the chart. So if I'm washing 50 vans, I look over here, number of vans is on this side. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up to 50. Here I am at 50. I go over and I find a dot right here. So that means I go down on this line here and I find the number of cars, which is 15. That's 15 cars. That's all I really need to do. I can get out of number 3 without doing a whole lot of math because of the chart. All right, so use that graph to your best ability here and help yourself out. Now, if we ended up with an answer that's somewhere in the middle, or it's kind of ambiguous where that would fall, then yes, we'd have to probably rely on our math skills for that. All right, we could just take 4 times the number of cars, 6 times 50 for vans, and it would equal 360, and then we'd be solving for C. But we don't have to worry about that so much on this problem or for this week's focus. Alrighty, number 3, again, use the graph to your advantage. Let's move on now to number 4. So number 4 says, Gabby makes banana bread at her bakery every Monday and Wednesday. Her banana bread recipe calls for the ratios of ingredients shown. 4 cups of sugar for every 32 tablespoons of butter. 60 tablespoons of butter for every 30 bananas. And then we have this lovely chart here, this grid, which gives us a ton of great information, some of which is missing, which we can fill out. Then it says choose all of the statements below that would complete the table to show the ratio of ingredients Gabby used to make her banana bread. All right, so before we can answer the A, B, C, D, E portions here, we need to worry about our chart. In order to answer the chart questions here, I want to actually use ratios, because that's what I'm given. This ratio of 4 cups of sugar to 32 tablespoons of butter, that's what I'm going to use to figure out the missing pieces. 60 butter to 30 bananas, that's what I'm going to use. All right, so I'm actually going to make some notes here on a separate sheet of paper. So I'm going to kind of move this to that corner of our video, and I'm going to just write down that ratio again. So the first bullet point says 4 cups of sugar to every 32 tablespoons of butter. Okay, when I look at that ratio, I want to think, how can I reduce this down, make it simpler for me? And I see 4 and 32, and both of those are divisible by 4. So I could actually divide both by 4. Okay, that's going to give me 1 sugar. And 32 divided by 4, that's 8 butter. Okay, now that reduced ratio is going to come in handy later because the smaller numbers are going to be easier to deal with. Let me do the same thing with the second ratio that I'm given. That one was 60 tablespoons of butter and 30 bananas. Again, create an equivalent ratio. Hopefully we're seeing 30 goes into both of these. So 30 goes into 60 twice, that's 2. 30 goes into 30 once, that's 1. So I have a 2-to-1 ratio of butter to bananas. All right, and hopefully my handwriting is showing up well enough for you. To me it looks very blurry, but hopefully it's coming out okay. So now that I have my reduced fractions here, or reduced ratios, I'm just going to create 4 separate equivalent ratios, 1 for each one of our 4 boxes. So let me start off with sugar to butter. Now I know that my sugar to butter ratio is 1 to 8, right? So I have 1 to 8. Okay, I'm going to separate that. So this is like my reduced ratios. Now I'm doing the work to fill in the boxes. So I have 1 to 8 sugar to butter. I'm just going to write S to B. I want to make an equivalent ratio where I know I have 12 cups of sugar, right? And then an unknown amount of butter. There we go. All right, so what am I doing to 1 to get to 12? Well, I'm multiplying it by 12. So 8 times 12 is going to give me my amount of butter. 8 times 12, if you're not sure what it is, you can always do the math. But we end up with 96 tablespoons of butter. I can fill that in up here. Okay, let me do the same thing for butter to bananas. Now that I know there's 96 here, I can figure out the bananas. So that was a ratio of 2 to 1, butter to bananas. Okay, so I'm going to create an equivalent ratio. Let me scooch over here. So I know that I have 96 butter, right? So then I'm going to have an unknown amount of bananas. So what am I doing to 2 to get to 96? Well, I'm multiplying it by a certain number. If you're not sure what it is, just take 96 and cut it in half. We're going to end up with 48. Okay, that means I need to multiply my 1 banana times 48 and get 48 bananas. So in this box, I know that's going to be 48 bananas. Okay, and I did that, and I'm trying to squeeze this work all into the video here for you. I did that with some simple equivalent ratios. Let me work on Wednesday now. I have my number of bananas is 64, so I know it's butter to bananas. That's 2 to 1. Butter to banana. Okay, so I'm going to make an equivalent ratio where I know I have 64 bananas. Okay, and I need an undisclosed amount of butter. What am I doing to 1 to get to 64? I'm multiplying by 64. So I'm going to do the same thing here, 2 times 64. If you're not sure what it is, maybe just think 2 times 4 is 8, and then 2 times 6 is 12. That's 128 for the butter. So 128 goes in my blank space in my chart. Okay, let me work on one last equivalent ratio here. This is going to be butter to sugar, so I know it's 1 to 8. And I know that from before. I can show it to you right here, 1 to 8. Okay, again, that simplified version just kind of makes our life a little easier. So that was sugar to butter. I'm going to make an equivalent ratio where I have 128 butter and an unknown amount of sugar. So what am I doing to 8 to get to 128? I could take 128 divided by 8 and figure this out, or maybe I just know that 8 times 16 is 128. That means I need to multiply 1 times 16 and get 16 sugar. Let me fill that in here. So I've just filled out my entire chart thanks to my equivalent ratios. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4 equivalent ratios for 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. All right, let me look at my multiple choice options. A and B both say Monday. This says 96 tablespoons of butter and 48 bananas. Hey, that's what I've got. So letter A is correct. Letter B says 72 tablespoons of butter. Well, that's already wrong. And then 64 bananas, that's wrong. Can't be B. Letter C, Monday is 8 tablespoons of butter. Nope. 30 bananas. Nope. Can't say that's right either. For letter D, oops, there we go. Letter D, Wednesday, 16 cups of sugar, 48 tablespoons of butter. I was so close with 16, but it's not 48 tablespoons of butter. And then letter E, 16 cups of sugar, 128 butter. That's the correct answer. All right, so as you're looking at number 4, by far, this is the one that requires the most amount of work. It's not difficult work, it's just setting up equivalent ratios. It's work we can all do, but we're gonna have to put forth some effort on number 4, so make sure you're prepared for Thursday's quiz by putting in that effort and making sure that your answers are worked out. Because if I prove my answers, then I know for sure, in this case, A and E are both correct. That's our focus review for this week, week 29. I wish you all the best of luck on your focus quiz. Make sure you're studying, make sure you're preparing, and make sure you're ready to work hard. I'm Mr. Regener. This has been another edition of The Aftermath.
Math! Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Math class is fun, but when it's done, stay in the zone. On your own, it's math review, made just for you. Take a video wherever you go. Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Oh yeah.